favorite parts of the chapter were because I was reading it and I highlighted like almost everything. It was really good this time. I found a lot of things in here this
I
time.
think your highlighter exploded.
It did.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Well, who can tell me who Negus was? Who Negus was? What's his real name? Well, the Arabic name. You've heard it before, I know. It's not in the book.
Oh, I was about to say, I
Ah,
don't remember
trick
reading
question.
that.
Najashi. Najashi.
Okay.
His name was Najashi. And this is where, when we were reading this chapter, we realized that Najashi was the king that was saying they weren't sure if it was the same Najashi or not. It was the same Najashi. Okay, Negus. Negus. Not Negus. Negus means impure. So I keep saying Negus because it's a word I know, but it's Negus. But he is the same king because one of my favorite, toward the end of this, I like the stories. My husband could not completely back it up just because he didn't know each and every single detail of the stories of how these two men, or three men, became entered into Islam. But the story of Amr, when he went to Negus saying, you know, let me have this one. He was among the
Another
people of my
Amr, yeah.
enemies. I want him and I want to kill him.
Yeah.
And Najashi knocked him in the nose and made him bleed and couldn't, he's like, if I knew you didn't like what I was about to say, I wouldn't have said it, you know?
Taking out
I was
the king
like,
is not
duh.
necessarily a good idea. Yeah.
I was,
Is it pronounced Nagus?
every,
Abyssinian king?
it could be, I keep hearing it as Negus, and it could be Nagus, but the Arabic word for it, and that's why I like to go with it, just because it's easier, and I know there's no mispronunciation, is Najashi.
You should have heard us trying to do Hercules last week.
Oh, that was
fun.
horrible.
Yeah.
Shad's still laughing about it. I butchered that name. Anyway, well, I gave him a different name actually. When the beginning of this chapter is beautiful. Why?
What about it? This is one. This is 1 year
the
later.
first
Yeah.
time they get to actually go in and make their umrah, right? And this is, we fight all our lives just to get to umrah or hajj, right? And this is their first actual event of being able to do this. So how beautiful is that? You know, when I went to hajj, it was like, I couldn't believe I was actually there. I kept saying, I'm not really here. I was looking at the Kaaba and I'm like, that's not really me here, looking at that Kaaba, because it was such a hard road to get there. I mean, literally, we didn't have our visas or our tickets until the morning we were leaving on the plane. At 10 o'clock, we were supposed to be in the airport at 11. So all the way through, there was struggle. So I was like, the whole time, we're not really going. We're not really going to get there. We're not really here. I'm not really here. And then I was like, I just made hajj, you know? And it was like amazing. So imagine these people who had struggled and been tortured for all of their time of being Muslim, and finally being able to finally enter back into this city that for their religious obligations. You know, subhanAllah, imagine that overwhelming feeling, you know?
Especially after the distress they felt when they were stopped the first time.
And such failure they felt at that last, you know, they were like, we were here. We were so close. And they wouldn't even slaughter their animals or shave their beards or I mean their heads or trim their beards. Why? Because they're like, but we didn't accomplish what we were supposed to accomplish. Till after Prophet Muhammad ﷺ went outside and did it himself, then they all rushed to do it because they realized they cannot disobey what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said. So when they get there and then it's finally happening, imagine that. That's beautiful to me. It just makes my heart just
I like that they
squeeze up.
said it was actually a command. You know, everybody who was there at the treaty, you're all going. No one's staying behind. And then a few hundred people also went, but it was an actual command.
Men, women, and children in this one. I think there was only a very small number the very first time of women, but this time it was a numerous number of all different. But all of the people who went from the first treaty went on this first Umrah. Also, the beautiful thing about this was that he made a command to them, and he made a dua for those who obeyed. What was the command and what was the dua?
where at? When they were actually,
when they were getting close. There was a rumor about something.
That they were weak.
And what did he command?
Oh, them to jog
For them to jog, yes.
around and do like to bear one of their shoulders.
To show their strength,
Strength.
also to show that it's very clear. He said, he instructed his companions not to show any sign of weakness. Strategy? Is it strategy? Is it religion? Is it what? Was it a religious reason for not showing weakness? Was it a strategy? Was it Allah told him to tell them that? What was it? Strategy. So not everything was a revelation from Allah, right? I'm making this a differentiation here because the wisdom of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was also a very huge part of his ability to be that prophet and that leader and that strong, commanding person. Okay?
may God have mercy on everyone who shows them
And
that he
then-
is strong.
And then the dua, when he went and touched the black stone with his stick, he said, may Allah have mercy on all of those who showed their strength, who showed that they were strong. Okay? Now, Hajj is not easy, especially back then. I mean, nowadays it's much easier. You can
Pretty
pay
marble floor to walk on.
$15,000. You can pay $15,000, or you can pay your airline ticket and maybe $200 more. Depending on the comfort zone you want to be in, there you're at.
There are people who actually take their own food. My mother-in-law, when we called her when we were on the Hajj, said, what food did you carry? We were like, we didn't bring any food. You know, my mother-in-law would have been packing food up, getting on a bus, bringing everything with her. There were people literally sleeping on cardboard in the street to get to do their Hajj, bringing their own food. You know, I had a hotel and a buffet. And I was like, anybody else says anything about them serving macaroni 2 days in a row, and I am not sitting beside you anymore for fear you are going to get struck by lightning. Did you see the people on the cardboard in the street? You know,
Yeah, don't
this is
complain.
nothing.
Don't complain. But the thing that I'm talking, the comfort level at that time was literally nothing. It was a constant struggle and effort and like extreme effort being made in order to continue this, to perform their Hajj. Now,
Month it was. I
What-
was thinking about the heat. I don't know what month it was.
it
They
doesn't,
mentioned
You didn't mention
it
it.
doesn't say.
I thought
Yeah.
they mentioned it.
But the heat alone.
It talks about different time where it was talking
It
about.
doesn't
the-
really
the
matter.
weather,
Winter
but
lasts
not
about
this.
3 weeks in Saudi Arabia. That means it's about 75 degrees for 3
Now,
weeks.
one
So
of the
that's
things,
winter.
one of the things that took place prior to them even entering the city, they were still on their journey, and they started out in ihram, which is what? What is ihram?
The intention to go.
As well as what?
It's a physical thing you do
The
when you
state
go.
of your garment, your dress, the
Mhm.
entirety, you have to.
Mhm. You have to be in, like the men are required to wear 2 pieces of cloth. Women are still supposed to be covered head to toe, but not in extremely nice garments and you're going to a fashion show or something like that. It should be, you're there for your religious purposes. You're not there to dress up and show off the new fashion.
You
know.
don't have to wear black. You don't have to
You
wear
don't have
white.
to,
There's
it's
none
not
of
a
that.
specific, there, thank you.
Yeah, it's
not a
easier- it's
specific
easier on women,
attire for
yeah.
women.
You can wear
Women are
jabab,
still
abaya,
required to
whatever.
wear their full hijab and whatever, but you'll see every type of cultural dress at Hajj, every type,
Yeah.
except for the men. The men will all look the exact same. Not a one looks any different than the other. King to the homeless man, all in the same clothing. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that because you literally could be praying next to the king and you would have no idea. So you have no different
And you might be
emotion.
praying next to the king because all bets
Literally.
are off on Hajj.
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, there were princesses there where I was and I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And I didn't care. I wasn't there to meet a princess, you know. I was there and I was barely getting through all of my required things, you know. Anyway, but the point is that was equality right there. On the way to the Umrah, something happened. They were going to stop in a certain place, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ sent people ahead of them with armament, right? With swords and sheaths and all of this. The people of Mecca, the Quraysh, heard, they were like, wait, you said you were coming
A couple
without.
guys saw the guy he sent ahead with armaments
You
and
weren't
extra
coming
horses.
in aggression.
They got nervous.
we've never known you to break your word, right? And this is
Yeah.
from the people who have constantly chastised Prophet Muhammad,
That was
right?
my favorite part.
We made the agreement. We've never known you to break it. They know themselves, but they don't know Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to break his agreement, right? So what did he say?
He said that, we're gonna park these things that we brought with us outside the city, we're not carrying them into the city.
No, they were carrying them in, but they weren't carrying them in as an aggression. They were going to be in there sheathed. They were going to be sheathed.
Well, no, they
These
said, he
extra-
was talking about the
these
extra
extra-
stuff, the
Oh,
extra
yes,
armaments
yes.
and horses.
But
said
they
he's got
only
one
brought
for
what was every man's traveling companion during that time was their sword in their sheath. It was not
Right.
out and ready for battle.
you.
Okay.
But you're
But
talking
yeah, you're
about,
right. Sorry. Then when he goes in and he touches the stone and everything, and all of these people are
But I
like,
looked
are
at
these
before
the
that-
people that you said were weak? If they're weak now, what were they before they
And
got
there was a
weak?
fever
You know,
epidemic going around at the time.
in Medina there was a big plague that swam through Medina.
But I like their response even before that, even before they went in, and then the Quraysh started going, these guys are weak, these guys are not weak. They're jogging around the Kaaba.
That's
But
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but before that, when he told them, I'm not going to carry the arms into the city, they said, this is more like what we have known of your faithfulness.
Mhm.
I mean, still, we know you to be true, still recognizing who he is and his character, but still not
This is more
accepting,
like, yes.
but still refusing to accept it. Yeah, and then he goes in and they're jogging and,
And everybody was
looking
doing
strong.
what? The people of the Quraysh, what were they doing during this time?
Some were running to the mountains or something to hide from
Some were going to different places. They were like, I'm not in this city. Something's about to happen, right? What were the rest doing? They were like, what's about to happen? I'm like, you know how you know something bad's about to happen, but you just can't look away?
it was dinner and a show.
They were so scared and they were, yeah, it was pretty much entertainment. But to their relief and their dismay, nothing bad happened. They did their rituals, which is required among every Muslim. They did their tawaf, they did their sa'i, they did their salah, and they did it all without thinking about the people all around them, right? Because to them, they were there for that purpose, which is called, when we're praying, we're supposed to have what type?
Khushu'.
Khushu'. It's their concentration was all, their intention, all of it on their act, their hajj or umrah or whatever, okay? This is umrah, I'm sorry, I keep saying hajj. But it is one of the mandatory things of hajj, so wa alaikum salam.
Also about the bearing of the arm, understand that they were bearing their sword arm, and that sword, any mama who's ever carried the baby thing around, you get that arm that's stronger than the other arm. They had, the sword arm was much more muscular, and they were tougher and stronger folks.
And that's
at the
actually the
time.
only time of,
Yeah.
the only time that men are allowed to be bearing this area of their body, actually in the prayer. You're not allowed to pray like this with this bear any other time except at the hajj or umrah.
And that's something you want to study, because some people will still even say you should cover both shoulders, but some people say because of the story that you can leave one shoulder uncovered.
But also, a lot of people think that the men's aura only during the prayer is only between the navel and the knee, and it's not.
No.
It's also this area as well. And that was new to me, by the way. That was
Really?
very new to me, yes.
I've got boys.
Not
You've got
now.
girls.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
known it for, yeah. I've known it.
You remembered it.
Yeah. But when I was teaching the prayer, I had to make sure that I was covering those, making sure those areas were covered. Okay, now, something happened that, what was it? Where was I at? Who has something to add? What stood out to you guys during this chapter?
The part with Bilal, he
Ah,
over the Kaaba to pray.
Love it.
I
What was
highlighted
beautiful
further
about that?
That I highlighted the paragraph. Those people who were in the younger generation of the Meccan chiefs whose fathers were mostly killed in the battles with the Muslims. Bilal's action, however, was a manifestation of the strength of Islam, which emphasizes equality between all people.
Yes.
Because they
It
were like,
was
oh my goodness,
the
who's
worst
up there? You know?
insult, and they prayed God, thanking God that their fathers did not live to see that day. That a former black as night slave was standing on the top of their idol,
Where they kept their idols on.
right?
Yeah.
In such a high position of respect among so many. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure some of us
Not
can
just
imagine.
that, but calling the other people their
That's what I'm
enemies to
saying.
pray.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
know?
It's such a high,
Yeah.
respectful position.
Yeah.
And how dare anyone give that to a former slave? And this was his right as a Muslim immediately as he took Shahada. SubhanAllah. I mean, SubhanAllah.
I really feel like this is why, and I love hearing the name Bilal. And you don't just hear
One of my favorite
Bilal
names,
from
by the way.
African American converts. You don't hear it. You see it among all groups because
Yes.
this is an inspirational story, regardless of what color your skin is. It's just just like stick
Or
it to
where
them,
you-
Bilal. Say it
Or what
louder.
your- or what your-
No.
or what your job or your station in life is too.
Yeah.
You know, it has nothing to do with whether you were the richest or the poorest, but among the other religions or other cultures,
Mhm.
I don't like to say religions because most of the religions also say we're not supposed to be doing this either.
Right.
Doesn't always happen among the people, but
Well, it doesn't always
Supposed
happen with
to
us
is-
either. So.
exactly. But the message of Islam is such an equal, and I have the same rights as you have to me. You have the same, it's a give and a take. It's not a, well, you know, I'm the president, so I don't really have to do anything. The president has so much more obligation, actually. And you don't have so much obligation to him. You know, subhanAllah. So it's such a, it's beautiful.
Plus
to me.
gender. I mean, gender equality and all that,
Yeah, that was,
I just have
we'll
to
get into
say,
that one in a minute.
Another area.
Yeah, but that's absolutely gorgeous to me that that he didn't look at them saying, see where I am now. He said, come to the prayer, come away from evil and come to the good. You know, subhanAllah, come to success. He wasn't telling them, I hate you for what you've ever done to me. He's saying, come and enjoy the beauty of what Allah has revealed. You know, subhanAllah.
There was a friendliness while they were in.
Sister Joy, you wanted to say something?
I just
See him
wanted to
come
say,
in. He's hiding in the back.
because it's Black History Month,
Mhm.
I mean,
Oh, it
it's
is.
so beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
We've been talking about Bilal for 32
Yeah.
years, so.
Yeah.
I wanted to
It was
ask
Black History Year.
if you could say the words he said.
Yeah, this is the Adhan. Where am I at right now?
The peninsula of Africa and time separating it, so I think the overall message is that this is a universal religion.
Yes.
It does not take into gender, race,
found it.
ethnicity, because, you know, it said that there's a ayat that talks about men who brag about their horses and their sons.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of humility, peace. It is based on belief
Mm-hmm.
in a God, you know, in the oneness of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it unique, and it makes us all equal.
And
Puts
I
everybody
think
in their
that-
position, and that's where we all should
I
be
love
always.
that point, sister. Thank you for sharing it. Because, you know, amongst the companion of the Prophet, the companions of the Prophet, there's Bilal, who's an African origin, was slave, and then he was free. But there was also Salman, who was a Persian, and there was Suhaib, who was a Byzantine. So it was a diverse, a diverse place in an unlikely place for diversity. You know?
And like the previous chapter, it was talking about how he did outreach to other countries and specifically to make sure that there was diversity, because this was not a religion for the Arabs, it was a religion for all mankind. And that's also what reaches to all of us. I mean, you look at it, if you think about it, there's not one nationality that is not represented in Islam. Not one.
And the
You
other
know.
point maybe to bring up is the Prophet, we do not know exactly the intention of the Prophet ﷺ when he asked Bilal to call the prayer. It could be many things. One of them is that he was the best qualified person to call
That
the
was
prayer.
his position in their community as well.
And because he did it not in Mecca, like, you know, he didn't choose him just in Mecca, he did it in Medina as well.
That would have been different. It would have been a very clear message if he had only chosen him for the position in Mecca. But it was his position in his community, and he was not going to change it because of the people's mindset in a different country.
I do think we
The
put our
word-
own history, we or whatever,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
for me,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
gender, I'm drawn to the gender things, I'm a female, that's, you know, but, and I think we put our own American history,
Yeah.
we really, I don't know, project that onto the stories when we read them.
I wanted to say
Telltale.
Let me read the words really quick. Let me read the words really quick. It's Bilal shouted from the Kaaba, the Adhan, which is